All right, JAG University, here with Marcelo, talking about how to insure your Airbnb. Right, and I'm talking about you as a unit owner or an investment property. It seems that that's one of those things that's getting more and more popular, right? People are investing in real estate, looking for income producing assets. And, most people don't disclose, right? That, hey, I do short-term rentals. And it's honestly one of the hardest things to insure because there's not many carriers who actually want to take down that exposure.
Correct.
Now, how many times do you get that phone call, or do you feel like someone's buying a unit? They don't tell you until after the fact.
Oh, we're getting a few.
Quite a few, right? Hey, by
Yes.
the way, is it covered short term? Well, and again, things do change, right? So we don't blame insureds for that. But this is a conversation we need to have when people are buying units. Is that this is something I'm thinking that I'm going to do in the future, because we need to kind of plan out the few companies that are going to actually insure you properly.
Correct. A few clients actually they don't want to disclose it. They think that we're not going to be able to help them out, but we are insurance friendly. I mean, we're going to help them out. That's what we do here. You must disclose every single piece of information regarding your property.
Well, specifically, and let's go back. Define, short-term rentals. I know certain companies have different guidelines, right, as far as eligibility.
Correct.
Some will require a 12-month lease. Some more than 9, but anything less,
That's a short-term rental.
It's called a short-term rental, and there could be specific exclusions on page 112 that everybody reads when they get it in the mail, right? I'm sure that's required reading. But I just think, and I think what happens too, right, based out that when we're writing new business and someone's buying an asset, they tend to not, maybe they don't want to disclose it to the lender as far as what they're going to use the property for, so they don't tell us. And you made a good point. We are insured friendly. We understand both, right? We need to make sure you close as far as lender requirements.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have to have these conversations to make sure that you're insured adequately. It's a very difficult word to say. You're insured properly. Do that one instead. but it's one of those things where communication is key, especially when you're going into an investment property.
Correct. I understand the client, they want to close the property. They want to complete the process with the lender as well. They want to complete the requirements that the lender actually requires you to do so. But at the same time, you have to be properly protected. I mean, that's a conversation we must have while we're shopping around for insurance. We're actually helping you out in that underwriting process.
Yeah, there can be and there must be no gray area if you're getting into the short-term rental space. Like that is 101. We talk about landmines all the time. That's the biggest one. And again, people ask, well, why are investment properties more expensive as far as insurance goes? Or why are Airbnbs? Well, it's just tenants don't tend to care as much, right, for your property. And the Airbnb issue is more liability, right? Yes. It's you're outsourcing to somebody else. They can invite another person. Something happens, they're going to come after the owner of the unit. And I know Airbnb will have, they have an ability to sign and have kind of a gap policy to cover them during the time, but that doesn't preclude you from being sued from a very serious issue.
Exactly. That is why, of course, for insurance companies, there's a big difference regarding annual tenants or short-term rentals. I mean, the difference is too big. Of course, they don't like them, but there's a few carriers that they will do it eventually. But at the same time, we have to have this conversation in the beginning of the story. Why?
Yeah. No. Why? Because and things change. Right?
Exactly.
And I want to ask you a question too. When we look at occupancy, there's people that will buy a condo unit, right? An investment property. Well, let's call it a condo on the beach, and they're going to call it a second home. But
they decide to rent it.
But they decide. It's a little cold down in South Florida, right? A little too cold for us. That they decide to rent it out short term. How and when, in your opinion, how should they go about handling that?
They have to tell us the truth. They have to tell us the truth, meaning it's going to be your secondary home in the beginning. And then later on, as soon as this changes, you have to let us know, because we have to go back to underwriting and tell us what's going on.
Right. And some carriers will be upfront about making an amendment. I would always say prepare for the worst, as far as think about what is the biggest exposure for an insurance carrier. Like if you have a second home and you're going to rent it out, treat it as a short-term rental.
Yes. Right.
Just add some contents coverage to kind of fill that gap. But think about what are some of the ways an insurance company can get out of a potential claim. And the biggest thing is not disclosing that you're having this is a short-term rental.
Correct. And a lot of clients won't do it. I mean, because first of all, they don't want to say it, or they don't think this is going to happen.
And it's more expensive too.
as well.
right? As far as coverage goes.
It is. Insurance companies, they don't love Airbnbs. I can tell you that.
No, I can tell you that from experiences too. We see the claims come in.
Yes.
Right. And again, communication's so key. We talked about previously about you being kind of a doctor. So Dr. Marcelo is something we're going to stick with that theme. But being able to diagnose, right, potential issues and how to create that peace of mind. I mean, liability issues and short-term rentals, those are things that could really happen, right? It's the unknown loss.
Yes.
It's the potential liability exposure. Not having that constant communication really puts you in a really bad situation in lieu of something that were to happen.
Correct. Liability issues is probably one of the major factors here in the state of Florida. Liability regarding short-term rentals. That's pretty much what it is. I mean, people get sued a lot for that.
Well, and I can even tell you now too. So let's go back to condos specifically, right? Mm-hmm. Condo units. It's water damage. It's liability.
Yes.
So let's go back. Your Airbnb tenant doesn't care. They decide to leave the water running. Really, they're gonna go. They're here for 3 days on the beach to party. They're not worried about what's going on. Water starts running. They leave. Not a care in the world. Water starts running down. That's a liability issue.
Yes.
Right? You as a unit owner, are you going to rely that the carrier is going to actually pay that claim when you did not disclose the intent or occupancy of the unit? The answer is 99% is going to say no. No. Right.
So it's one of the things that they have to understand at the beginning when we're trying to insure this property, this condo. There's so many tenants in an Airbnb that every single tenant is a different risk. It's a different risk for the company. So that's why the risk in the underwriting process is completely different from an annual tenant.
Right.
So we have to understand that this is a very important situation that's going to happen eventually. And if you don't disclose this information in the beginning, when you have a claim, probably the insurance company is not going to pay.
Well, and so a lot of times it might come down to price, which hopefully not. But let's say we don't want to have that conversation comes up where it's about price. There's a reason why it's more expensive, right? The actuary look at this stuff. Statistically speaking, you're more likely to have a claim, hence why they're charging you more money. It's not that there are a few companies who can and cannot do it, but it's well worth the investment. One liability claim is going to knock out that investment property.
Without a doubt. That's why it's important to they have to tell us everything from the beginning. Yeah, we have to prepare for the worst.
I'm telling you, we talk about it, short-term rentals. That has to be over communicated, right? Yes. Your intent on your properties, whether it changes or not. I mean, an email to your agent, us to the carrier, just making sure it's documented, puts you in a position where if God forbid there's a claim, you're going to be covered.
Correct. We want to help you. That's why you have to understand this.
That's why we call JAG.
Correct.